What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan. Happy, Tuesday? Wednesday? I hope you guys are doing great. Subscribe to the channel if you're into nootropics, testosterone, performance. Go support us at livecortex.com, where we've got the Cortex stack and the Torque stack. These are powerful nootropics, and if you need to hire me and I'll get to what I do later, you can do that at livecortex.com. All right, so I decided to do something a little different today, friends, and go take some questions on the Facebook groups. There's two of them, one called Nootropics 2.0 and another just called Nootropics. They've been around for a very long time and have a lot of quality information. So I went in there and picked, I think it was 5 questions to answer, and I think this is going to be useful because we're talking about all kinds of things related to nootropics for recall and social situations to long COVID, to a host of things in between. So let's get into it. Okay, so first question, Tyler is asking, so I'm looking for a nootropic that is good for recall and social situations to be able to take information off your mind fast and present it. Anyone have any good ideas? Yeah, off the top of my head, like I talked about with Vigorous Steve, you would want to look at a uridine-centered stack because you're tackling both the episodic memory, which is very important for verbal fluency, and kind of the dopamine-like energy to have the brain energy to, like, you know, be verbally fluent. Stick with 150 milligrams of uridine, probably like 50 to 85 milligrams citicoline. If you want to get really advanced, you'd stack that with 100 milligrams or so of artichoke extract. That's the basis of the Cortex stack and why it's so powerful. In addition to that, like for social situations, I mean, you're kind of going to want social lubrication, which, you know, I find to be very effective in being verbally fluent, as well as like just being socially lubricated, right? And in these cases, you're going to want to have a stimulant nootropic in the mix and then a balancer as well. Something that I found works really good for me in these cases to optimize myself on top of my baseline. It is, for me, 50 milligrams phenylpiracetam hydrazide and 150 milligrams of L-theanine. Now, usually people are going to need to take a choline source with phenylpiracetam. So, you know, insert your 20 to 300 milligrams of either CDP choline or alpha-GPC. But yeah, I mean, I got this stimulation and improved brain performance from the phenylpiracetam, but then I got theanine kind of balancing things out. I think that's important for social lubrication. You want a stimulant in the mix, but not just a stimulant in the mix, right? You should have a balancer that's targeting either GABA or serotonin or both. And then that kind of balances the state out, but adds that nice confident sort of flow to your brain so that, you know, you're not tripping over your words and you seem verbally fluent. Good question, though. All right, next question, Bo Jackson. Bo is asking us, has anyone actually noticed any difference taking fish oil? I don't think I've ever noticed anything. What brand and how much is best, or what type? All right, so this is a good question. And so, like, this actually brings up a really important point. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, I didn't notice Noopept, or I didn't notice this, or like I didn't notice that. The first question you got to ask people, and you've got to have the nuance to ask yourself, is, well, first of all, what are you using a nootropic for? If it's because you're fatigued, some nootropics are not going to band-aid your fatigue, right? If it's because you have a crappy energy problem because your testosterone is sitting at 380 total tests and you just think it's fine or haven't checked it, well then yeah, you're going to be synthesizing a lot less stimulant neurotransmitters. And so, like, you got to handle those things first before you look to nootropics to try to solve these issues. Also, you know, what may you be taking, or what are you taking that is disrupting neurotransmitter synthesis? There are many pharmaceutical drugs that do that, whether they antagonize acetylcholine receptors or something else, you know, and a host of other things. But, you know, assuming that baseline is in a good place, yeah, you should notice something from taking fish oil. I don't take fish oil a ton. I mean, if it's like, if I run out of krill oil, I'll take it. Krill is kind of just like a more bioavailable version of the omega-3 fatty acids via adding phospholipids to the mix. But yeah, I mean, I noticed that if I stop, this is what I'll tell you, if I stop taking krill oil or fish oil, I notice my brain being a little less fluid, right? A little less fluid. People have to remember that the omega-3 fatty acids are like literally one of the main constituents in making you build new neurons, but also membrane fluidity, membrane's integrity, generally keeping your brain in a fluid place. Like, you know, fish oil and krill oil, absolutely effective, assuming that your baseline is in the right place. No particular brand. You probably want to spend a little more money on the brand and not get a cheap brand, as to not have the oil be rancid, because that can happen. All right, John is asking, anyone went through hell with long COVID and how to get out of it? How? And got out of it. How did you get out of it? All right, so long COVID is a very, it's a complex disease. It's predominantly an inflammatory disease, a pro-inflammatory disease. And this can be measured by, you know, raises in interleukin-6 and a host of other pro-inflammatory cytokines, among other things. There's some pretty good research out by a guy named Bruce Patterson, who actually found that the S1 glycoprotein, you should Google that in case you want to understand what it is, seems to stay trapped in this particular type of immune site called monocytes for for considerable periods of time, a year, 2 years, possibly even more thereafter. And so that's causing endothelial damage, and the pro-inflammatory cytokines are disrupting neurotransmitter synthesis. There's probably a mechanism for disrupting HPTA, hypothalamus pituitary, testosterone, gonadal axis. So you're going to want to look at your hormones and get them up to par. If you got to go on TRT, go for it. But I guess as it relates to one specific recommendation with long COVID, what the research, if you draw correlations in the research, what the research would tell you is that largely the pro-inflammatory response is happening in the gut. There is a great degree of anecdotal reporting on MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, and that's predominantly histamine centric. So what you would want to do, based on looking at the research, is you'd want to administer a specific probiotic strain, which I talked about very recently, called Bifidobacterium longum. You'd want to get the BB536 strain, and the research is, the clinical science behind this is actually very validated in that will inhibit some of those pro-inflammatory cytokines, and Bifido longum, specifically BB536, degrades histamine. I mean, it will literally degrade large quantities of histamine, which is causing some degree of the problems in these long hauler folks. All right. Jonathan is saying the continuous use of tyrosine must be balanced with something like 5-HTP. However, at what dosage? Okay. So, he's sort of onto something here in that, tyrosine is going to make you make more dopamine. Some of that's going to convert to norepinephrine, and some of that is then going to convert to epinephrine. But, the synthesis enzymes overlap, and the brain kind of, with 5-HTP and tyrosine administered at the same time, the brain kind of decides which of those to uptake. They actually compete for uptake. So, if you're taking 5-HTP with tyrosine, one of them is not going to be effective. I'm not really sure how the physiology goes and what determines, the uptake selection, but, taking them together, wouldn't necessarily be a good idea for efficacy's sake. What he's leaning toward is tyrosine is very stimulating, and so you'd want to have something to balance that out in case you get anxiety or become overstimulated, in which case I'd be shooting for something like L-theanine. An alternative would be Picamilin. I mean, that's going to give you brain available GABA, so it'll kind of pump the brakes a little bit on some of the excessive neurotransmission without shutting it off completely, so that you can have your cake and eat it too, right? You have the stimulation, and then you have a little bit of background calm as well. Next question, and this is like kind of, it's very, very relevant to us Racetam users. David, or possibly David, is asking, Paracetam plus AlphaGPC help? He goes, not new to this, but very confused on the workings of this Racetam. So you're not new, but you're confused about the workings of the Racetam. You're new to this. He goes, 5 p.m., I feel normal. I take 300 milligrams of paracetam and 200 milligrams of alpha-GPC. 6 p.m., I feel a wave of stimulation and excitement wash over me. I come up with various ideas. I get a mood boost. I get to work on designing a new project. Mind flooded with great ideas. Eventually, this becomes overwhelming. It turns into confusion, aggravation, racing thoughts that make no sense, and feeling like this will last for hours. I can't work anymore because my memory feels trashed. 6:30, I lose this enhanced headspace, and now I'm at a loss of what to do, still feeling confused. Okay. 7 p.m., feel pretty much normal. Okay, so that passes. So this is very obvious to me what's happening. The choline precursor, glycerol phosphorylcholine, or alpha-GPC, that is having some degree of delayed response. It's crossing the blood-brain barrier, then the brain's kind of trying to figure out what to do with all this choline. Usually you should be dosing the choline sources a lot lower, unless, of course, you are 200 plus pounds, in which case you're going to metabolize these compounds differently. You're going to require higher doses. But most people are just not going to require that much of alpha-GPC. Secondarily, I would say, like, your dose ratio is far off compared to what may be considered like an optimal dose ratio. For paracetam, the highest tolerable dose is 5 grams. People usually dose it in the 2 to 4 gram range. And so you've got 300 milligrams of it with 200 milligrams of alpha-GPC. Your ratio is totally skewed. So, like, I would be taking 2 grams of paracetam, and I would take that alpha-GPC down to either between 100 and 150 milligrams and run that again. You're probably not going to get such a substantial initial kind of stimulant, great brain performance effect, but it'll be noticeable, a lot more stable, and then that sets up a lot less of a chance of this overage of acetylcholine and taxing of the cholinergic receptors. Last question, and this is actually a really good one. A guy named Ed Miller says, hey, what's better
for upregulating the dopaminergic system after stimulant withdrawal, 9-MeBC or bromontane.
All right, so I would say, first of all, you got to make sure that the dopamine system is at play. I think there's a lot of people that are purporting dopamine is problematic because they read on Reddit somewhere, they're taking their symptoms and going, hey, I don't really feel motivated. But a lot of things can leave you with a lack of motivation. Now, it's somewhat of a smoking gun if you had just gotten off of Adderall or an otherwise pharmaceutical dopamine stimulant, like a reuptake inhibitor, which is essentially what most of those are. In which case, yeah, you would want to both synthesize more dopamine and upregulate the gene function, the gene expression that make you spawn new dopaminergic neurons. And you would do that. You could really do that with both of these compounds. But if you were to select an individual compound, you'd want 9-MeBC. I mean, the literature is much more clear on this. 9-MeBC is both enhancing, dopaminergic neuron generation as well as general dopamine signaling, potentially sensitizing receptor sites, but also is upregulating the conversion enzymes. So you have this process where tyrosine ultimately becomes dopamine, but in order to do that, it has to get converted by tyrosine hydroxylase. That turns it into dopa, basically. And then dopa to regular dopamine happens via dopa decarboxylase. And so you're going to foster the expression of both of those enzymes and general dopamine neuron regeneration and firing with 9-MeBC, whereas bromontane is only going to help you synthesize more dopamine from precursor. It's not going to work on gene expression. It's not going to necessarily enhance dopaminergic neuron availability. So, the winning bet would be 9-MeBC. And the validated science on this, which is from Parkinson's research, is very clear, and that you need to be taking 20 to 25 milligrams plus for at least 10 days to notice a benefit and get the actual neurological benefits from it. And I would wager for a lot of people it's going to be 25 days, 30 days, 40 days plus, maybe 2-week break, and then run the cycle again thereafter. I hope that's been useful. If you guys like this sort of Q&A format where I'm targeting a bunch of different topics in one video, please comment. Either way, I want you to comment for the algorithm. Doesn't matter what it is, man. You can comment on my beard or just put the word algo in there. Since we got banned, 6 times and deleted on YouTube, the algorithm's really screwed us. So anyway, I wanted to drop some coupon codes for some epic nootropic products for you guys. Look, if you're a serious individual, you should buy both of these nootropics, but at least one of them. Number one, the Cortex stack. This is motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency. Very serious stack. No BS, guys. I kind of mentioned that a variation of the Cortex stack in this video, uridine citicoline artichoke extract, very powerful for turning on verbal fluency, your capacity to be calm under social pressure, your ability to be motivated, and very functional. Your brain's ability to be fluid. That's what Cortex does. Buy it at livecortex.com. Coupon drop, my friends. Coupon code 30 now will save you 30% off of that stack. You're literally going to get the stack for 70% of what it usually costs. The link is in the description of this video for Cortex. Go buy a bottle. You're not above pre-made stacks if you think you are. I take them every day. Secondarily, the Torque stack. Now, this is a very serious stack, particularly for entrepreneurs. If you're an entrepreneur or a corporate person or a worker that wants to be productive, you must buy Torque. You're missing out if you don't have the stack, guys. Seriously. People ask me what's the difference between the two stacks. Torque is like clean but very powerful stimulant energy. It's like if you want to work for 6 hours and have the brain function to get a lot done and really be in ultra beast mode, then buy Torque. You can do it at livecortex.com. Coupon drop. Coupon code, 15 now, 15 now at checkout will save you 15% off of the mighty Torque nootropics. That go buy a bottle, buy 2. If you want to support the channel, buy our stacks. You're going to love them. Last, if you'd like to hire me for coaching, consulting, whatever you want to call it, you can do that at livecortex.com. I'll interpret your blood work, dial in your TRT protocol, give you nootropic regimens that are targeted to your brain, resolve energy issues, and host of things in between. You can book a call with me in literally a minute at livecortex.com. All right, friends, you guys know we did the podcast with Vigorous Steve, so the full live stream is up. It's like an hour and change. It's just super information dense. So please go watch that at Vigorous Steve's channel. Go subscribe to Vigorous Steve's channel. Show him some love from the nootropics community and say what's up. Appreciate you guys being with me, and we'll talk to you on the next one.